The 21-year-old white man accused of opening fire inside an African-American church in South Carolina faces a bail hearing. In our Music Maker segment, an up-and-coming young performer from Burkina Faso. And a man and his pet stroll through Tokyo and become an internet sensation. Africa 54 starts right now.
Good evening and welcome. I'm Vincent Makori. This is Africa 54. The white suspect who allegedly perpetrated the massacre at a historic black church was charged on Friday with 9 counts of murder, according to the Charleston, South Carolina police. 21-year-old Dylan Ruff is scheduled to appear in court in about 90 minutes for a bail hearing. U.S. authorities are investigating the killings as a possible hate crime. Many Americans, including President Barack Obama, are frustrated with persistent racist and mass shootings across the country. VOA's Latisa Hoke has more.
Founded in the early 1800s, Emmanuel Church has dealt with discrimination and hate crime throughout its history. During the civil rights movement, worshippers could only meet in secret, and the building was once burned to the ground. Its survival is a monument to the resilience of African American people, said a black church leader in Washington.
Churches and African Americans, are a strong people and a resilient people. And we have survived a great deal, and we'll continue to thrive and grow and band together.
The question on many minds since Wednesday night's shooting has been why? Why would someone take a gun into a house of prayer and kill worshippers? One human rights advocate answered that question for VOA via Skype.
Here we have a young man, a disaffected youth who, is upset over the changing demographics in our country, maybe the prominence of, black people such as the President of the United States, and decides he's going to lash out. And instead of being, someone with no future, he's going to be, a world historic figure who has, struck a blow for the white race.
In a speech Thursday, President Barack Obama expressed frustration about mass shootings, which he said are more frequent in the United States than any other advanced country.
I've had to make statements like this too many times. Communities like this have had to endure tragedies like this too many times.
The suspect in the church shooting has been known to display a liking for white supremacist groups and symbols. He had not done well at school and had no job or driver's license. Police arrested him in North Carolina and launched a hate crime investigation. African Americans throughout the country are shocked at the crime.
That incident not only affected the families, but it affected all of us. Not only black folks, white folks, green folks, everyone. It involved all of us because we have to ask ourselves the question, what did we contribute to this incident? And what have we not done that may have prevented?
But Americans gathered together in the nation's capital and elsewhere in a show of unity against racial hatred. Zlatica Hoke, VOA News, Washington.
Now to West Africa. The Nigerian army is denying charges that it committed human rights abuses in its war against the Islamic terrorist group Boko Haram. At a news conference on Friday, senior military officials addressed an Amnesty International report accusing the military of human rights abuses, allegations the army denied, saying the military has nothing to hide or cover up.
The military has a constitutional and moral responsibility to protect Nigerian citizens and cannot suddenly engage in mass murder as portrayed by Amnesty International allegation. It will be recalled that upon the written request from Amnesty International to the military to comment on the allegations, the military promptly commenced investigation into these allegations. Consequently, several investigations on these allegations are ongoing.
Well, Amnesty International says that more than 8,000 people have died while being held prisoner by the Nigerian army during its campaign against the group Boko Haram. Now, the human rights group says many of the prisoners were executed and others died due to starvation, overcrowding, torture, and denial of medical assistance. Well, Saturday, June the 20th is World Refugee Day. The world is facing the worst refugee crisis in modern times, and the global response has been woefully inadequate, according to the latest annual report from the UN High Commission for Refugees. Humanitarian groups are now calling for a global summit to address the crisis. Henry Ridgewell reports from London.
The United Nations says by the end of 2014, more than 60 million people were forced to flee their homes, the biggest displacement of people ever recorded. Sameh and his family fled war in Syria. They were rescued from a boat in the Mediterranean this week and taken to Italy.
Every human on this planet loves their country, but the situation in Syria would force anyone to look for safe shelter in a safe country, for themselves, for their wife, for their children.
More than 100,000 migrants have crossed the Mediterranean to Europe this year. Nearly 2,000 have died. Europe's crisis is far from the full picture, says UN High Commission for Refugees spokesman Andrej Mahecic.
The Mediterranean is only perhaps the visible consequence of what we are seeing globally. Let's not forget that 86% of the world's refugees are hosted by the developing nations. For example, Syria has been the single largest driver of displacement over the past 4 years. Most of the Syrians have found refugees in the neighboring countries, nearly 4 million of them.
Syria's neighbours, like Turkey, are trying to stem the flow of refugees. They have received little support from the international community, says Anna Shea of Amnesty International.
In Lebanon, 1 in 5 people is now a refugee. In Turkey has the largest Syrian refugee population at over 1.7 million people. So in the face of this massive influx of people in a short amount of time, countries are really resorting to troubling measures.
The group describes Africa's refugees as the world's forgotten crisis. There are more than 3 million in sub-Saharan Africa.
What's really striking is that a lot of countries are both the source and destination for refugees. So countries that are persecuting people and where people are suffering human rights abuses are themselves welcoming refugees because there's nowhere else for these people to go.
Shea says the inadequacy of the global response was highlighted last month as thousands of ethnic Rohingya refugees from Myanmar were left drifting in the Andaman Sea for weeks because no country would accept them. Indonesia and Malaysia have now offered temporary resettlement. The UN's Mahecic says the world is entering a dangerous era in which the humanitarian response is dwarfed by the scale of the refugee crisis.
Over the past 5 years, 15 conflicts erupted in various parts of the world, 8 of them in Africa alone, 3 in the Middle East, just to name Syria, Iraq, Yemen, another one in Europe, Ukraine. This unprecedented displacement requires an unprecedented response.
Mahecic says the only long-term hope is a political solution, but many of these conflicts are intensifying and the number of people forced to flee for their lives continues to grow. Henry Ridgewell for VOA News, London.
Well, Texas has become a favored place for refugee resettlement. 10% of the refugees in the United States live in the state, and most of them in Houston. VOA's Greg Burkimbila attended a World Refugee Day celebration in the city where visitors enjoyed music, dancing, and food.
World Refugee Day was a big party for people who left everything behind to find a new home here in Houston. Sania Lakpati, who works with the Catholic Charities Refugee Program, organized this year's event held at the University of St. Thomas.
They left behind a lot, and now they're here resettling into a new home. And Houston has more refugees than any other city or state. Many Houstonians actually don't know that. And this is an opportunity for us to come together once a year and celebrate them.
But most refugees avoid talking about what compelled them to leave their country, like this woman who escaped genocide in the Darfur region of Sudan.
It's very bad.
Refugees don't want to tell their story. They don't want to relive it. And it's already difficult for them to resettle because a lot of them don't speak English. So you have engineers and doctors working labor jobs just to get started and, to make life for their family.
One thing that helps is the increasing diversity of Houston's population. Zain Alatar, who works with the YMCA's refugee program, speaks Arabic and several other languages.
I was kind of raised in a pretty strictly multicultural, multilingual environment, and so now I help out with the refugees, and I enjoy supporting the cause.
Refugees from various countries find common ground playing football, called soccer here in the United States. So World Refugee Day planners also brought teams from various nationalities together in a park for a set of games. This team, called Texas Lions, is made up of East African refugees.
2, 3, Texas Lions!
This team, made up of players from Cuba, Algeria, and Iraq, also includes women like Romy from Honduras, who works with interfaith ministries.
I just want to have fun and see people from other agencies, because we don't talk that much with them, and I would like to meet them.
At the celebration, too, refugees came together to support each other and embrace their new beginning in a new homeland. Greg Flakus, VOA News, Houston.
Now, how often do you get to walk downtown in your country's capital, find a podium and a microphone ready to express your opinion freely? Well, Africa 54's Esther Githu-Ewart walked into one in downtown Washington, D.C. and has our report.
The museum this week celebrated the 800th anniversary of the Magna Carta. Using the hashtag Take a Minute, people from all walks of life were warmly welcomed to the podium to voice their opinion freely and on any subject. But what exactly is Magna Carta? Jean Polisinski, the chief operating officer at the museum, explains.
The larger purpose and the inspiration it has been over these 800 years is speaking truth to power. And so very much for the founders of the United States, it was seen as one of those documents that helped formulate our concepts about freedom of speech and religion, press, assembly, petition, the 5 freedoms of the First Amendment. So we're under a 79-foot tall marble plaque that has those 45 words of the First Amendment. And we thought, what better way to celebrate this beginning the flickerings of free speech and being able to speak truth to power than offering people an opportunity at the corner of 6th and Penn in the heart of Washington, D.C. to speak truth to power.
Henry Okonofwa is a Nigerian-American who took a minute to express his thoughts on the podium. Speaking to VOA News, Okonofwa had a message for the newly elected Nigerian President Muhammadu Buhari and the Boko Haram militants.
In Nigeria and Africa generally, people take office, public office, as if it is their own private properties. They should be accountable to the government or to the leader of the country so that they can make sure that when they come in, they go out not richer, but better.
Even the youth took a minute to sing a happy birthday song to a friend who turned 19.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
Another African-American teenager, Samrina Hunter, spoke against gun violence in the United States and had a message for her fellow youths.
I think that it's a big issue in our society today, in the DMV area, because I've read statistics saying that DMV has a high percentage on gun violence. I think that they should be on the right side, the authorities, sometimes because there are, police brutality. But at the same time, I think that we should all think smart when using weapons.
Esther Githu-Ewart, VOA News, Washington.
Well, we want to know what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we cover. Join the conversation on Facebook. The address is Africa 54, and check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. Coming up in our Music Makers segment, a rising artist from Burkina Faso makes his mark. Stay with us.
This is BizBeat.
Wine consumption is on the rise, and China's vineyards are sprouting up. But wine expert Dorian Tang says China still has some work to do before its wines become serious international contenders.
In some of the Chinese wineries, I think their wines are quite young.
China is the second largest wine country, with vineyards now occupying nearly 5,000 square kilometers of land. That's a lot of grapes.
Everyone is very excited about China. Everyone is very interested in becoming involved in China. And I think China is responding as such with an increase in consumption.
In fact, China today is the #1 consumer of red wine, drinking nearly 2 billion bottles of the red last year. But a crackdown on extravagant gift-giving on luxury items imposed by the government could slow down demand for the near future. For VOA's BizBeat, I'm Philip Alexio.
Welcome back. It's Music Makers Friday, and today we feature Greg Burkimbila, a young artist from Burkina Faso. VOA's RM Music Show host Roger Muntu spoke with Greg yesterday and is now here to tell us more about this young man and his music. You know, Burkina Faso, we haven't featured anybody from.
That's correct. This is actually the first time, you and I feature someone from Burkina Faso. But he was in the building yesterday. You know, he's in the United States to tour all over the United States. He's one of the few young artists from Burkina Faso.
Yeah.
He has a beautiful voice, I can tell you that.
I think he does. And the song we're featuring today is called 15 Avril.
Yeah,
do you get a sense of what it is?
That's correct, which simply means in English, April 15th. Right,
okay.
Which is a big date for him and the girl that he's singing about.
I don't know if it looks like
That's
a big
right.
day.
That's right.
So let's watch it.
Let's get more of the music video.
All right, let's play this video.
Si tu acceptes le 15 avril, sache bien qu'il n'y aura pas d'amour.
Que veux-tu que je fasse pour que tu saches que je t'aime? Que veux-tu que je dise pour que tu saches que je tiens à toi? Tout ce dont j'ai besoin sur cette terre, c'est de vivre près de toi jusqu'à mon dernier souffle. J'ai tout effacé dans mon cœur, rien que pour toi. J'ai tout oublié dans mon esprit, rien que pour toi. Mais pourquoi tu me fais pleurer? Mais pourquoi tu me fais souffrir? Tu es la femme de ma vie. Je ne peux vivre loin de toi. Et voilà que tu me parles du 15 avril. Et voilà que tu me parles de 15 avril. De 15 avril.
Voici ton chèque de 15 millions.
Nelson, toi tu es un mouton.
Mon amour pour toi grandit.
I think there's no contest. He has a great voice, this young fellow. But it's not normal. It's not common lately to see young fellows like this singing this kind of songs in Africa. It's more upbeat, hip-hop kind of thing.
Right.
Did he tell you why he's kind of...
That's a very good question, Vince. But you are going to be surprised.
Yeah.
This kid told me, because I asked him that question, how do you, at your age, singing, this, and especially in Africa, at this young age, it's more about dancing, it's more about, everywhere pretty much. But he told me, Roger, look, I grew up listening to VOA.
Really?
That's how he started. Wow. I grew up listening to VOA, but get ready for this.
Yeah.
all I was listening was country music.
Really?
Yes. Country music, VOA.
So that was his music influence.
That's how, that's correct. That's his influence pretty much. He said that's where I got my voice.
Yeah.
And he gave me a few names, of American artists that he used to listen since he was a kid, because his parents were listening to VOA in Burkina Faso. And that's how he said, Roger, I wasn't really into, well, I'm young, I like hip-hop and all that, but because my parents were into country music, I loved country music, and that's where my influence and voice.
So is he based in Ouagadougou?
He's based in Ouagadougou.
And he's currently in the U.S.
Currently
What is he up to?
He's touring with his band, with the manager and the production company that actually invited me. He's playing tonight actually in D.C., in Washington D.C. Then tomorrow he's going to play it in New York City before going to Canada and head back to.
And it seems to mix languages. How many other languages does he sing?
That's correct. Well, he only has one album that was really, really successful in Ouagadougou, in Bamako, in all this, West Africa area, right?
Yeah.
But he's working on his second album. He considers himself pretty much like a world music singer kind of thing. So he likes to mix languages as he sings. And his second album he's working on right now, he said, Roger, there's going to be some English.
And so I hope next time we can actually bring him to this show. So that I don't have to sit here with you.
You don't have to listen to me. You have to hear the man sing.
He can tell me. All the same, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for sharing. Yeah. Well, Roger Munto is host of VOA's RM Music Show. Visit Facebook and type in the keywords Roger Munto, and there you can learn more about the music man and his dynamic social culture show. Well, it's time now for a short break. Still to come on Africa 54. An unusual pet turns head strolling in Tokyo. We'll be right back.
قررنا أن نجيو الكل يدخلوا تونس. دخلوا 23 أعوان قنصلية، وقررنا غلق هذه القنصلية بعد هذه الحادثة الخطيرة.
Welcome back to Africa 54. Here's what's trending. Battle lines were clearly formed at the opening of the Electronic Entertainment Expo 2015, better known as E3, as gaming giants showed off their wares at this year's convention, taking place this week in Los Angeles. Microsoft, Sonny, and Facebook-owned Oculus squared off in an effort to promote their virtual reality accessories. There were also plenty of familiar gaming franchises making sequels for fans eager to try them out. Activision's Call of Duty, Black Ops 3, and Microsoft's Halo 5 were among the titles generating a strong buzz among gamers. Well, next up, a new food trend in Venezuela. Caracas is seeing a rise in clandestine dining as inventive restaurateurs seek ways to survive the economic crisis, corruption, and crime. This is how the restaurant, Private Shive, set in a back garden in a wealthy Caracas neighborhood, came to exist. The eatery serves 16 people under a mango tree with a retro artwork on the garden wall and vintage vinyl records as place mods. And now around half a dozen small illegal eateries have sprung up around the city over the last year, mainly publicized through word of mouth, phone calls with owners, and social media. Well, and finally, a giant African tortoise and his owner have become used to turning heads when they go on their walks in Tokyo. He Hisaho Mitani says he has been taking his pet Bonchan on daily walks for some years. Mitani has owned these tortoises for about 20 years, but it's only recently that he became an internet sensation when still pictures of them walking around this part of downtown Tokyo went viral. The naturally sweet-tempered tortoise has also helped with his owner's funeral parlor business. When families who are sad come to a store and they see Bonchan, they have a moment when they smile, and I think that is nice, Mitani said, and that is what is trending today. Well, it's time for a Friday Sports Report, and here's Sonny Young with the sunny side of sports and a look at the Women's World Cup. Hello, Sonny.
Hello, Vincent, and sporty greetings once again to our Africa 54 viewers. Cameroonian football fans are celebrating their national team reaching the round of 16 in their debut appearance at the Women's World Cup in Canada. Fans danced, sang, and cheered in the capital, Yaoundé, for the indomitable Lionesses of Cameroon. The Cameroonian ladies in their maiden Women's World Cup have played impressive attacking football in Canada. They scored 9 goals during the first round group stage. Only Switzerland with 11 goals and Germany with 15 scored more. Cameroon will play China this weekend in the knockout round, and Cameroon's head coach, Inau Ngochu, says the Asian team will be a difficult opponent.
We know against China is going to be very tough. Even if we are being eliminated, we shall be happy. But as I said, we came to create surprises. We are going to do everything possible to qualify for the next round.
The Cameroonian ladies are only the second African team in history to advance to the knockout stage. Nigeria accomplished the feat at the 1999 Women's World Cup here in the United States. I'm VOA's Sonny Young, and that's the sunny side of sports, kicking the ball back to Vincent Makori.
All right, thanks a lot, Sonny. And remember to watch for the sunny side of sports every Monday and Friday right here on Africa 54. That's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com for more news. Tune in to VOA's evening radio show, Africa News Tonight at 1800 UTC. And in the mornings today, Break Africa between 0300 and 0600 UTC, Monday through Friday. Thanks a lot for watching. From all of us here, have a good night.
Music is something that brings people together.
Music educates, it motivates, it's a bridge.
Music. Ali.
On
VOA.
qubanaha VOA waxaan ku soo gudbinnaa qubanayaal goosgoos ah oo xiiso badan oo ku saabsan arrimaha Soomaaliya, Maraykanka iyo caalamkaba.
haddaba qubanaha VOA-da kala soco website-keena voasomali.com.
From VOA Learning English, this is the Technology Report.
I'm Milar Sega. I'm the host of VOA's The Correspondents, a roundup of the world's top stories.
Here's a false choice in more ways than one.
We can't actually put you there, but we can come pretty close. In 30 minutes, we'll show you the world.